Have you been told you have histamine intolerance? So you've been cutting out everything, leftovers, fermented foods, bone broth, even avocado, because you've read they're high histamine foods, but you're still having histamine reactions? Or maybe you don't have an official diagnosis, but you have classic histamine intolerance symptoms like anxiety, reflux, bloating, eczema, dizziness, insomnia, or tons of food reactions, and you're wondering if histamine might be your problem. Or you've tried all the things to treat high histamine, the low histamine diet, histamine intolerance supplements like DAO, even a full-on histamine intolerance treatment plan from another practitioner, but you still have histamine symptoms. So you're asking, why won't my histamine calm down? If you said yes to any of these questions, then this episode is for you. Today we're continuing the Real Root Cause series, where I take conditions that get treated like a root cause and I show you what's actually driving them. Because knowing a fake root cause versus a real root cause is the difference between managing symptoms forever and finally getting your life back. Today's topic is histamine, and in this episode, I'm breaking down what histamine intolerance really is, the most common histamine intolerance symptoms you're probably not connecting to histamine, why a low histamine diet can become a cyclical trap that never heals you, the 6 real root causes that keep histamine high, even when you're, quote, eating perfectly, and how to choose the right testing and support to find and reverse those root causes. And one more thing, because I'm doing something fun for this whole series, we got visuals. If you're a visual learner and want the flowchart that goes with these episodes, go to betterbellytherapies.com/root and download the graphics. Because when you stop trying to avoid high histamine food like it's the enemy and start fixing what's making your body unable to handle histamine, that's when you get your life back. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly podcast. If you're currently trying endless supplements, doctor visits, and diet changes to heal your mystery symptoms, you are in the right place. We're here to solve the real root causes behind your gut, hormones, skin, sleep, and brain concerns. Literally anything and everything in your body. My name is Allison Jordan. I'm a functional medicine practitioner that has supported over 150 clients just like you to heal problems that no one has been able to fix. You don't need a perfect diet or a random supplement you found on Instagram to heal. You need a proven system that heals your whole body from the inside out. That's what I'm here to share with you, episode by episode. It's time to make health easy again. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. Hello and welcome to our podcast on histamine. I'm so excited to get to have another histamine episode. I feel like I've had a lot of DMs lately of people coming in and saying, that they're struggling with histamine and they found my podcast and it was helpful. And so we have a couple great episodes on it already. And I just wanted to throw histamine into this fake root causes series. It's a really big mind bender for people when they've been trying to heal their histamine issues with a diet or, diet being a big one, or taking diamine oxidase, DAO, or different histamine reducing supplements, and they still have issues. And it's because of the six drivers of histamine that we have here on today's episode. So we're going to dive into the real root causes of histamine. If you're new to the series, we've been diving in January and all of February in upcoming episodes on things that a practitioner or a doctor might have told you, or even just a Google search might be telling you this is why you have an issue, but it's not. And when you try to deal with the issue face on, you end up kind of band-aiding the issue. So if you're like, oh, I have high histamine, I'll do a low histamine diet. It seems like it makes sense one-to-one, but it ignores the fact of why do some people have no issues with histamine? They can eat high histamine foods. They don't, you don't just randomly one day not be able to tolerate histamine or high histamine foods. We're designed to be able to manage all those things. So the issue is when that system breaks. So you just want to go and evaluate what in that system is broken, and it's different for every person. You need to have, there's going to be similarities of similar things to look for, but the exact things you're going to find, what is actually going on, is going to differ. And that's why you need a program that's both, you need a process or a program or whatever you're going to end up doing to heal that is going to be both consistent in how many things it looks for, but then flexible in exactly how you execute healing this process, because the issues that you're going to have are going to be, or the root causes driving them is going to be different from another person going through the same process as you. So before we get into that, I want to just go over what are the key symptoms of histamine. And by the way, I'm doing all of this on my iPad. If you want to see the image that I'm drawing, the flow chart, and kind of you're a visual learner in any ways, go to betterbellytherapies.com/root. And I have a screenshot of all of these trainings that are all these visuals that I'm doing with the podcast episode on there. So if you like visuals at all, want to look it up later or while you're listening, please pull that up. But on the top line, this is, if we're talking about root causes, you want to think about like you've got weeds in your body and we're trying to pull the weed from the root up, like not just the top of the plant, from the root. But if we're looking at the whole plant, what are we looking at? So the very top of the plant, the thing that says, oh my gosh, I think I see some weeds in my garden, or like the weeds are taking over. That's going to be your symptoms. Some symptoms of histamine overload is going to be acid reflux, IBS, especially if there's like a diarrhea focus on it, bloating, low blood pressure, high blood pressure. We're just going to put BP for that. Anxiety, lots of anxiety. I feel like it was specifically with our episodes in February, anxiety is a very common symptom. High estrogen can cause anxiety. Low progesterone can cause anxiety. High histamine. It's just not fun. It apparently can be caused by so many things, which is one reason too that, I mean, it's, and having had mental health issues for much of my life, it is something I'm so compassionate for of, oh my gosh, they can get easier. It can get better. And it might have nothing to do with needing more counseling or needing to box breathe more or something. It might actually be getting rid of a pathogen called C. diff or helping your histamine levels not be so high or whatever it is. So there's so much hope if anxiety is an issue for you. There's so much hope. But also really like panic, any type of panic disorders can be a histamine issue. Chronic UTIs, eczema, a lot of skin issues in general can be histamine driven. Dizziness and vertigo, brain fog. I'm spelling vertigo wrong. Brain fog, fatigue. Think like chronic fatigue syndrome, perfectionism, OCD. That's kind of in the line of like mental health. Insomnia. Insomnia made it onto a lot of our lists for the symptoms for the root causes, fake root causes in February. So all of those things, if you're having them and you have a practitioner who's worth their salt, they might be like, oh, sounds like you have a histamine issue. And sure enough, they might try some things like a low histamine diet, or these would be like very quote unquote direct ways to try and help your histamine levels. But it usually, first off, a low histamine diet is a total pain to execute, and it ends up leaving you with very few foods to eat. You can become, that can be an issue on its own, that you just don't have enough nutrients in your diet. But also, it's just not dealing with the real root cause. So you're just stuck on it for a really long time. And that's not the goal. Should not be what's happening. Hope you guys don't mind. I've been recording all my episodes for February in one day. And this is the last episode I'm recording, even though it's not the last episode in February. And my voice is just, it's done. It's done. I've done a lot of talking today. All right. Drinking some hot tea with some honey. So a histamine diet, maybe supplements. Again, if you're kind of doing a natural route, maybe medications that are like antihistamines. And there can still be some use in that. If you're just trying to manage your symptoms, it's great to manage it, just to be able to live life. not be so itchy, not have as much acid reflux, anything that's going to help, that's good. But you want to use it to buy yourself time and energy so that you can then go deal with the real root causes. And here's what they are. Number one, we're going to be looking at, make sure you guys can see this, high estrogen. Now, this is a little bit dog chasing its tail. That last week's episode said histamine's a real root cause to high estrogen. I did make a disclaimer in last week's episode that high estrogen will also be pro-histamine. But what you don't want to just stop at, I have high estrogen, so I'm going to get on birth control or something. You want to think about, why do you have high estrogen? You have high estrogen, one, because of poor detox, or, wow, I just spelled poor with 3 O's. I'm just going to leave it there. Judge me. It's hard to spell when you're teaching. Or B, excess exposure. So poor detox is going to be your liver, phase 1 and 2. I talk about that in last week's episode about high estrogen. And then excess exposure is going to be all about like xenoestrogens. So xenoestrogens, estrogen that is coming from outside your body that might be a birth control. It could be parabens and phthalates, basically fake scents, that they are hormone disruptors. They look chemically like estrogen. So even though you breathe it and you think, this smells like tangerine, if it's not an essential oil, then it's a chemical, and it might be, when it commonly is, in the similar chemical formed estrogen. So you're breathing it in. The only reason you can smell it is because it is a physical molecule hitting your olfactory nerve, and your olfactory nerve is registering it as a scent. But that molecule doesn't just disappear or go into the ether. It goes into your body. You breathe it in and gets into your lungs, gets into your bloodstream. So if you smell it, it is real. It is, it's a real thing. And, there's issues too with things that you can't smell, like carbon monoxide. You can't smell and it can still poison you. So just because it's a scent doesn't make it not dangerous. And I know that's like a big word to use. It's kind of a scary word. I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I know that before I had health issues, I think the non-toxic conversation had already started back in 2015. And I was a little like, yeah, well, that's good for the people who are sensitive to scents, but I'm not. And I wish nobody to be sensitive to scents, but I am now because my liver got destroyed. And I've had too many toxins have to go through my body. And you really see how people who are sensitive, sensitive people are more like a canary in the coal mine. It doesn't mean that all the coworkers are not in danger. It just means that the canary is going to die first. And that means that they literally, in a coal mine, if the canary dies, you leave. You hightail your butt out of there. And so, unfortunately, that is not what's happening in wider culture. The canaries, the sensitive people, instead of being treated with honor and respect, are being said, you're making it up or whatever it is. So that was not a part of my plan to talk about with our histamine episode, but there you go. One of my little, what do we call it? Soapboxes. Okay. Number 2, the second thing that can really throw off your histamine is your microbiome. And we're thinking about microbiome imbalance. There are bacteria in your body that help create histamine, or that create a little bit. So you might have some bacteria that are increasing histamine. And then you might have some bacteria there are some bacteria that are supposed to detox or break down histamine. And if you don't have enough of those guys, so not enough bacteria breaking down histamine. And that can happen. You're like, oh, well, how does that happen? Happens with SIBO and Candida and H. pylori. Other pathogens are going to be the first thing in many ways because they are bullies. They're going to create a lot of dysfunction in the rest of your gut microbiome. Some things will undergrow, some things will overgrow. And a lot of times it's undergrows the things you like and overgrows the things you don't want. So your microbiome, if it's imbalanced due to, say, other pathogens, that would be kind of a deeper root cause. So if I say microbiome imbalance, you also want to be thinking pathogens, which I technically have that as its own category. It's the next category. There is no like magic probiotic to just fix the bacteria that are creating histamine or not breaking down histamine. But that is like it's one of the mechanisms of how histamine is not getting broken down. All right. Another one is going to be pathogens. So the pathogen themselves will create an inflammatory response just by being a pathogen, just by being negative and antagonizing the immune system. So H. pylori is common, C. diff, mold, parasites. It's really interesting spending more time on Instagram now that there are clearly some hot topics. One of them is parasites. Another one is mold. And then there's clearly some that doesn't get talked about a lot. I'd say H. pylori, C. diff for sure gets underrepresented, at least in the social media circles that it tend to show up in my algorithm. And C. diff in general, I have clients that are just blown away that they have it. Now, if they've listened to other parts of my podcast, they might have heard me talk about C. diff. Unfortunately, it's not one that people talk about a lot. And C. diff can create a lot of issues with diarrhea. It can also create constipation, paradoxically. It can create issues with blocking your ability to convert dopamine into norepinephrine, which means one of the symptoms that will happen is high anxiety. So now maybe you have histamine issues that are increasing because of C. diff, which causes more anxiety. And then you have C. diff itself, which causes a lot of anxiety from breaking or blocking your ability to convert dopamine into norepinephrine. Too much dopamine, not enough norepinephrine. One of the symptoms is anxiety. Others is weight gain. Other is brain fog and inability to concentrate. Just not fun stuff. So you really want to think wide and deep when it comes to pathogens and not just whatever you're like, oh, I'm sure it's a parasite. Yeah, it might be. It also might be C. diff. And so you just want to be really open-minded with your pathogens. And next we're going to be looking at nutrient deficiencies can cause a lot of histamine buildup. One in particular is salt. Salt is actually one of the top nutrient deficiencies, sodium specifically, that I see in my clients. And they're always shocked because salt has been villainized so bad by our society and by culture. It has to do with blood pressure. It being so it's being told that, oh, it's a blood pressure issue. And I just realized I have a whole podcast on salt that if this is like fascinating to you, you can go listen to, and I am going to grab it so that I can put it in the podcast notes and put it in the screenshot for today. Salt. Oh yeah. The episode has the word sodium in it, not salt. Episode 232. Boop, boop. Episode 232 is sodium deficiency causing your bloating and constipation. It can cause way more than that, but just because constipation, something we talk about so much, that's how that's titled. But yeah, that is one big thing that salt can do. But one of the reasons salt is connected to histamine is salt is part of how we stabilize our mast cells. Mast cells are like an umbrella concept. Like they're a big category and part of your immune system. They do something called degranulate. They break down when there's something for them to respond to in your immune system. That's a good thing. You want them to do it. But if you have an issue where your mast cells activate too quickly, they respond too quickly, then you might have mast cell activation syndrome. Well, histamine is one branch of all of the mast cells. So interestingly enough, you could think you have histamine issues, but you really have mast cells. So that's one reason that like sometimes histamine support doesn't even work, because you're not even dealing with a histamine issue, you're dealing with a mast cell issue. This is not today's topic. I'm probably going to have a month where I'm going to have everything, the whole topic is on mast cell. I think I'm going to have a couple people on it who are experts that I just absolutely love listening to on mast cell. But right now we're going to focus, I'm just mentioning it as a side note that sometimes it's the wrong thing to focus on histamine, but basically back to salt. Salt stabilizes mast cells. And so if you are salt deficient, you might not be stabilizing the histamine part of your mast cells, since it helps stabilize all of them, including histamine. So salt deficiency can be a big issue. And I mean, it's rampant. It's wild. People come in and they're like blown away that they're sodium deficient when they see it on their test. That is an HTMA test. And by the way, I am going to talk through all the tests at the end here. So do just keep listening. I'll tell you exactly what test to do for all these. A fifth issue you're going to see driving histamine is going to be food sensitivities. So if you're eating gluten and you don't know you're sensitive to it, or you do whatever, whether or not you know it, it can still cause issues. And that can cause a reaction in your body to it. The one thing to know is that just because you are not having a reaction in your tummy, just because your tummy doesn't hurt, doesn't mean that you don't have a food sensitivity. So do keep it in mind that you don't need to have a hurt tummy to have a food sensitivity. Don't just block it off. And then lastly, number 6, we're looking at copper toxicity. Copper is pro-histamine. Histamine is pro-copper. Same with estrogen. They form a nice little triangle. And copper toxicity, copper's not inherently toxic to us. So it is something you'll find in things like multivitamins for women. But if you are already toxic in copper, more copper via a multivitamin, via high copper foods. Oysters, the highest copper food out there. But just if you're eating an abundance of high copper foods, high volumes of them, even if you're not eating oysters, maybe you're getting it through your diet, through piping, birth control, your mother being on birth control. Even if your birth control is estrogen based, estrogen's pro-copper, and it will cause you to retain and hold on to copper. And it can become toxic levels. Or simply being zinc deficient. Zinc deficiency can be a root cause of copper toxicity because zinc balances copper. And you can work backwards on all of these things, but you can't just take zinc and it be enough, because you also want to make sure you have high stomach acid. You don't want to increase your stomach acid until you know you don't have H. pylori. So there's like a really smooth way to deal with all of these things. But one of the reasons you can just not have good success is if you do things out of order, or you don't know that you have an issue going on, and so you're not dealing with it. You don't know you have H. pylori, so you're giving yourself stomach acid and zinc, but your symptoms are getting worse because you're feeding the H. pylori, things like that. So copper toxicity is one of them to drive histamine. And these are the 6 things that I'm seeing really consistently driving people's histamine. Histamine just buildup and inability to break down. So how do you test for all these things? Number 1, you're going to look at a Dutch test, can look at phase 2 and phase 1 detox of estrogen. You can do a GI map to look for pathogens and see your microbiome balance. You can do an organic acids test to see pathogens. You can do an HTMA to look for nutrient deficiencies, and copper toxicity and like things like zinc is a deficiency. And then you can do a Zoomer for a food sensitivity test. If you're not familiar with a Zoomer test, by the way, I highly recommend it over an MRT, a Viome, Tiny Health. It tests in a way that's super different than these other tests. Through something called protein peptide testing. All these other tests do things called whole food sensitivity testing, and those tests results can change day after day, but protein peptide testing is much more permanent. It's testing a different part of your immune system. Highly recommend it. Great test. If you want to learn more about it because you're not familiar with it, I have a whole podcast episode on it, and let me just go grab it. Zoomer. Episode 267. And I'll put that in the show notes. So those are the lab tests you want to do. And those tests will then tell you what you're dealing with. Because again, everybody's combination of issues is going to be different. Some people have C. diff, some don't. Some have H. pylori, some don't. Some have mold, some don't. Some have xenoestrogens, some don't. Some have phase 2 estrogen detox issues, some don't. Some have copper toxicity, some don't. But it's the combination that's the issue. And the combination being different for everyone. What can be the same is the type of testing to do. And then depending on what your testing shows, that's how you then get more precise on what you uniquely need. So we do all of that for you inside of the Better Belly Blueprint. And by for you, I mean, we give you the tools you need. So in module 1, you get a lab chooser tool, which just asks you questions based on your symptoms and health history. It tells you what labs you may or may not need. You can also just use this podcast episode if you're like, I think I have histamine issues, order all the tests I just recommended. Or you get to module 2, we have you can order your labs right in there. They're at near wholesale pricing. You save almost $100 on basically every lab. Some of the labs, you're saving multiple hundreds of dollars because we do not upcharge you hundreds of dollars like most other online providers do. When you order inside our portal, you can pay for the labs with your HSA and FSA account. You then learn how to analyze your labs and like the same way that I do. So just like a functional medicine expert. And then you get protocol templates that you modify so that you can put them together super quick and then have a plan to heal in the right order so that you don't get crazy symptoms, so that you do get progress and results. And that's it. That's how the Better Belly Blueprint works. So you can do it all at your own pace. You get lifetime access to the course and work. And if you want any type of support along the way, you can add on group coaching at any time, both when you join and then later if you just want to add it on later. So that is how we've done it. Again, if you don't want to join, if it's not the right time, if you're working with someone else, I hope this information is helpful for you as you're sifting through. Do you think you're getting the right care or where else to look to get better results with your issues? But if you are looking for the right place to go, if you're looking to take action and just get the access you need to start getting results and healing, just highly invite you. There's no wait list for the Better Belly Blueprint. You can join today. Doors are open. I want it to be accessible, something that people can join anytime and finally see results. So go to betterbellytherapies.com/blueprint and you can join today. And if you are so excited for all these other fake root causes that I'm going to cover, be sure to subscribe to the podcast in your preferred Apple or in your preferred podcast player, or if we can send you directly emails when new episodes are out. Just go to betterbellytherapies.com/subscribe. And I would love to send you our weekly email on our new topic, links directly to the episode, just a reminder and a love tap, and honestly, free, fun information with, this time we've got awesome visuals. And so we're always trying to up our game with our education and helping you guys understand exactly how everything works so that you feel confident and settled and just get the information that you need to finally find healing and move on with your life. Have other things to enjoy and think about. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next week on the Better Belly Podcast.
Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening. You can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of. And you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you in there. Catch you guys next week.